Welcome to the happiest place, where we explore how to win at life and achieve your deepest dreams. I'm Brandi Hudson, a performance coach and happiness expert. Each week, we'll dive into practical strategies to help you live your best life by harnessing the power of high vibration emotions. Whether you're looking to improve your relationships, career, health, or overall well-being, this podcast is your guide to creating a life you truly love. Let's get started on your journey to becoming the happiest version of yourself.
All right, welcome back to the Happiest Life, where we get the benefit of years and years of hard work and expertise from Brandi. Today is going to be a little tough. Let's talk a little bit about, first, Brandi, how was your week?
Oh, it's been great so far. Thank you for asking. The weather in San Francisco is beautiful, and time with my little guy. It's been beautiful. Amazing. How about yours?
We're also really, really good. And I think what's going to make it better is getting some answers to this question that I think a lot of us really would benefit from your perspective on. How do we best manage feelings of rejection?
All right. So preface, we don't practice these in advance. So I get the question and I'm like, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Also, these are questions that come into us and I don't have the benefit of clarifying them with the questioner. But so let's talk a little bit about rejection in all the ways to make sure that we cover exactly the intention of the
Let's
question.
go.
Yeah. I think rejection comes from this place of feeling as though you're not good enough, right? Because we never, and people are going to disagree, and feel free to always reach out to us, people, but we never really know people's intentions, right? So when we feel rejected, that's how we are taking someone's actions. And oftentimes when people feel rejected, they haven't actually had a conversation with the person they think is rejecting them, right? So rejection can come in many forms. It can come with like me saying, hey, Rochelle, do you want to go out with me tonight? And you saying no. And then me finding out that you're out with our other friends. And I'm like, oh, why didn't she invite me? It can come from like a guy ghosting you and like never calling you back. Then it can be big, right? Like someone wanting a divorce. So it comes in many different ways. Not getting a job that you applied for, not getting a promotion you thought you deserved, right? So all of these feelings of rejection generally come, everything we'll see over the course of this podcast, everything comes from how we felt when we were little and how those kind of unresolved feelings pop up later in life. But if we didn't have a real strong feeling of belonging in our family and in our youth, that's going to be a game of whack-a-mole over the course of history.
So let's get a little bit tactical, right?
Okay.
So you mentioned people will. It's a manifestation of how you feel about yourself, or it sounded a little bit like worthiness to me. Is it tactic?
Everything's worthiness, so we'll get back to that.
How do we manage that feeling? If as you're saying, it started when we were younger, how do we deal with it now that we're grown up and have to operate as an adult in life?
Yeah, I mean, first, right, there's no one size fit all, but let's talk about it. We need to go back to those earliest moments where we felt really as though we didn't belong, that we weren't worthy of being in a situation, and try to just understand from our adult perspective, like what was actually happening, right? Like, why did I feel that way? What made me feel that way? And really ask ourselves the question, what would I have liked to feel instead? And really do the work to kind of feel that in the now. Time is something that we've created. We can actually, like, our brains can go back in time and kind of like reparent ourselves and rethink about situations and create these new neural pathways. It's scientifically proven that can help us like remember things differently, which is why we see like when there's a robbery, like six different people see it differently because the brain isn't actually that good at remembering. It's what we oftentimes use our brains for, but our brains are best used for pre-paving the future and creating a reality that we want. But we tend to use our brain to remember the past and then ultimately relive like how we've remembered it. And so we want to reflect on that situation because oftentimes we've hidden from it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we haven't reconciled those emotions. The best way to let go of dense emotions about the past is actually to feel them deeply in the present. Like that emotion is popping back up for you, that feeling of rejection, that feeling of not being wanted, the feeling of not being a belonging is because we never sat with that emotion. Did it make us feel angry? Did it make us feel ashamed? Did it make us feel fearful? Did it make us feel mad? Whatever emotion we avoided feeling in that moment because no one told us it was appropriate, we can feel that in that present moment and then start to move through that situation to the other side. I think also a beautiful way to think of rejection is just like, this wasn't meant for me and this will be a gift. There
Yeah.
is nothing that I haven't gotten in my life that I haven't later said, whew, glad I didn't get that. Right? There's no
Okay, we
bad.
need an example. I'm going to interrupt you. We got to get
Okay.
an example. We got to get
Oh
an
my gosh. Oh my gosh. There is this guy that I literally was like so sad. He like cheated on me. He ended up marrying this other girl. Like they ended up like basically like having this wedding that I had always talked to him about at the same location, the
Oh,
same kind of like things. He like named his first child a name that I said that I liked for a kid. I mean, it was like he took our life and totally like fast forwarded it with this new woman. And honestly, they had a tough go at it is all I will say. And I was like, I literally dodged a bullet, but in the moment that felt so heavy. It
yeah.
felt like I was really missing out. And I think like as many young women do, like there were these like relationships that just weren't really working that I'd have some level of sadness over, and every single one of them I'm like, woo. And I know for sure, like, I won the lottery on husbands, right? Like, I have the most amazing husband ever. And every tear I ever shed, I'm like, good luck and God bless. I'm just glad that they are not part of my life. But in that moment, you couldn't
Yeah.
have told me that, oh, when you're older, you're going to you'll be in the best position.
It also sounds like you're telling people to feel their feelings,
Yes.
right? And if we're not taught that, you're saying go back and look at your as an adult, look at that situation that influences how you're feeling about a decision that's been made. How do you manage big feelings?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was playing tennis with a friend the other day and I was winning, and neither one of us are like amazing tennis players, but on this day, I had the chance to have won many of the games that we were playing. And she was like really getting upset and she's like, well, I'm just angry. And I was like, well, why are you angry? It's like a tennis game at a club in San Francisco. We are not being paid for this. We're actually paying to be here. Like, why? And so we really talked about like that emotion, like anger associated with what started as this really fun opportunity for friends to be together. And what we realize is that when our emotions are suppressed when we're younger, we
Hmm.
don't actually understand like how to associate emotions with circumstances and experiences. And I will believe that every little girl has been told this. I've seen it a million times. Like, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. So you
Yeah.
get upset, the parent comes over, you fall in, something's happened. You're okay, it's gonna be okay, everything's okay. They speak for you on your behalf, right? And so I urge parents, if you're a parent and you're listening to this, please never say that to your child, right? Like, we have to let our children feel their feelings. That's why we have a whole society of people who just blow up because they've been told to keep in their feelings. And then at some point, you just can't keep it bottled up anymore. And then they get angry or explode about things that aren't actually probably the thing.
Yeah.
that they think it is, right? And so we want to learn, just like in the moment, it's okay to cry, right? Like it's fine to be angry about tennis if you are angry, but you also want to check in and say, is this emotion matching
Proportional, yeah.
this experience? And if it isn't, how did I come to learn that this emotion can be associated? Is it because I bypassed other emotions along the way? And so really, really just leaning into your emotions in the moment. I wrote a blog recently about crying on my birthday, and it just felt so good, right? Like it, in those tears is freedom. And on that other side, it feels really beautiful to be like, oh, I'm so glad I let that go.
Yeah. I'm going to throw in a little twist. Let's switch perspectives for a second. You talked about being on the receiving end of sort of this rejection. What about being a person that might have to deliver news that the other person might not want to hear? How can we be better at that?
Oh, that's you asking me that question, dear girl.
Maybe.
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 So I tend, my two of my very closest friends in the world really don't like delivering tough news to people. So one of them is right here with us today. I think, right, and you are this, right? But you want to know that the rejection, if that's what we're choosing to call it today, that you're sharing with someone
Yeah.
is in the best interest of everyone involved, right? And if you know that in your soul, then you want to anchor on that. You want to anchor on, like, this thing that I'm doing may feel hard in the moment for them. It may feel
Yeah.
hard for me, but it is in service to the greatest possible good. And not delivering the rejection, right? We're using this word broadly, is actually not honoring them as a human, right? When we prolong things or we make things something that it's not, that's just not actually being your best self. And it's tricky. So I can tell you why it's better for them, to be honest, which I did. But let's talk about why it's better for us.
Yeah.
It's actually challenging for our brain to feel one way and do something else. And what it starts to teach your own brain is that your truth isn't good enough. So when you know something to be true, but then you act in a different way because you believe it's nicer, kinder,
Yeah.
friendlier, better to prolong the inevitable, whatever you are telling yourself about why you're not just like dealing with this in the moment, you're telling your brain, my truth isn't good enough. It's not okay to be who I am. This belief that I have isn't okay, right? And so now you have what I call a divided mind. And when we have a divided mind, that starts to show up in many, many different ways in our lives, right? And also, we talked in a different episode about this idea of having a finite amount of creative energy. And so when you are storing an inevitable decision or an inevitable action in your brain because you're not willing to take it in the moment because you're worried about how the other person will feel, then you're just taking up your own brain space and you're preventing yourself, right? That's a dense, contracted, not open, expanded, flowing energy. And that open, expanded, flowing energy is how you align with your best self, right? And then you're also doing them a disservice, taking it back to them because you're just not allowing them to move on in whatever way the rejection is going to allow them to move on. Even if it's just, no, I can't meet you for dinner. Well, great. Like, if you wait till 6 o'clock to tell me because it hurt, because you were worried about hurting my feelings, and I can't even make dinner reservations with someone else, right? And if you're going to fire me, just fire me so I have time to find another job, right? Like now you're waiting, and what if the economy changes? What if this? What if that, right? Do me a service to let me know.
Are there any tips and tricks that you would say to help us get onto this path of having that sort of like radical openness with ourselves and feeling our feelings? Or if there are two things that you would say, wake up in the morning and close your eyes and think about, the best hug you've received and try to carry that feeling through the day. How do we do this?
Yeah, I've never heard that one. I mean, I think I want to make sure I understand the question. So I'm going to have you, I understood your example, which I love, but let me make sure I'm clear on what I'm helping people to think about doing.
Is there a tactic that can help someone get started on a path of being able to receive these decisions or rejections and then having that mindset shift that you described?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the work, to your point earlier, right? We can switch seats on this, is it's about worthiness, right? If I know that I'm only and always worthy of the best in the world, regardless of what I do, regardless of who I am, doesn't matter where I was born, doesn't matter where I went to school, doesn't matter how much money I make, what neighborhood I live in, the color of my skin, my gender, none of that matters. Every single one of the 8 billion of us are worthy of living our best and highest life, right? And all those things that I just outlined are just things that society has tried to interject on what makes us worthy, right? So if I just know that I am intrinsically worthy, regardless of anything, from that space, I can never feel totally rejected. You're going to have hard times, right? We're all meant to feel all the emotions. The only way you know love is to see or experience hate, right? Like these things, right? There is this bell curve and we're going to feel all of it. And that's part of the human experience. The trick is, as a society, we've lean towards the majority of our life being in those dense emotions and
Yeah.
then feeling like it's a privilege to be on the high end, like when I get to be happy, when I get to be excited, when I get to be surprised. And then we think it's normal to worry and feel anxiety and wonder if something's going to work out, right? Instead of being in this place of positive expectation and joy and knowing when the bad things happen, that's just coming to tell me I'm on the wrong track. But when we're in this beautiful space of knowing in our soul that we're worthy, we can really field everything that comes our way. And I mean, there's a really simple way. I love the big hug, right? There's a lot of ways to feel worthy and increase how you feel about it. But one is understanding that it has nothing to do with anything you can ever do, create, or be outside of just you. It's not about an identity. And the second is every day look in the mirror and just say, I love you, Brandi. I love you so much.
Yeah.
Right. And that like true love of self, no one can come between that. Right. So I teach Charlie, who loves you more than me? He goes, only me, mommy, only me. Right. Like he knows like no one can ever love him more than he loves him. And so that's why you have to anchor really high on how much you love yourself. And it's not an arrogance, it's just a genuine love.
I love it. These conversations are so meaningful, and I'm glad to be on this path with you, helping people to get happy.
Ah, I love this idea that happiness can really help us meaningfully shift our lives, and that when we anchor on and know that we deserve joy, that life is going to feel easy, magical. We'll start to see lots of synchronicities, and it'll be so good. Thank you.
Until next time.
Until next time. Bye, friends.
Thank you for tuning in to The Happiest Place. Remember, your dreams are meant for you, and you have the power to create the life you desire. Don't forget to send in your questions for future episodes. I'm here to help you on your path to happiness and success. Until next time, stay curious, take radical responsibility, and keep vibrating high.